At MP Coney Island, it's all about the chili and has been for nearly 100 years since we opened in 1923. We help put Newcastle on the map as the hot dog capital of the world. Visit our store, place an order for pickup at mpconeyisland.com, delivery with DoorDash, or find the grocery store near you with our chili locator on our website. Want to own your own MP Coney Island? Now you can with our franchise system. At MP Coney Island, it's all about the chili.
Hey everyone, welcome to Take a Bow episode 3, where we talk all kinds of theater talk that you can even think of. And I have my first male guest with me today, a very longtime friend and someone that I shared some great moments with in my early 20s, some good times on stage and off stage. Jack Decesare, everybody. So Jack is originally from Union, and got his start in high school theater with Union.
Yeah.
What was your first role?
My first role. Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on.
So
I
great to see
appreciate
you,
it.
dude. It's been a long time.
Yeah, so we kind of go way back because
We do.
I mean, we kind of knew each other before we.
Our families are interconnected.
Yes.
My uncle, my dad's brother, and your mom
Craig.
went to accounting school together, right? Or they worked together.
Yeah, they worked together at
together.
Carbis Walker, which is now something else.
And they're like, what's that one? What's the one Halloween movie with the three witches?
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
We're
They're
just-
they're literally like the Hocus Pocus. They're just like a blast. And so.
Yeah, they used to hang out all the time and stuff, and they still keep in touch.
Right.
My
So-
mom actually told Greg that you were going to be on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
recently.
I should have done a better job of spreading the word.
No, you're fine.
But when we started hanging out, mainly I think because of Bye Bye Birdie, right?
Yes.
So yeah,
2011. You senior in high school?
I was a senior in high school. You had just
1 year out,
graduated, and
yeah.
then we did the show together. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
right.
it's fine.
And then
Yeah.
10 years later, 14 years later.
Yeah, well, I remember Luann Goodrich, who was
Mm-hmm.
music director at NESHANNOCK with Mike Cavalier, when he directed.
Mm-hmm.
And she had said that she had told me, oh, there's this great actor from Union. And I was like, oh, who is it? And she's like, Jack Decesare. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I knew you. I was like,
Before Bye Bye Birdie?
Before I ever even, before Bye Bye Birdie. Yes. And
That's nice of her.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, this was like after you did
One
Kiss
of the
Me
high school
Kate,
things,
or no, you played Rooster and Annie,
The Rooster.
Yeah.
I love Annie so much.
which they're gonna do at the Playhouse here in at the end of their auditions are like in a week.
I might have to revoke my equity
Yeah, you might have to
status
show up.
I'll get in trouble. Well, maybe I can ask them. We'll see. I've always been curious about doing that. I'm still kind of new to the whole thing.
I've worked with people that had equity cards that
Still were able to do community
that
stuff.
were able to do community semi stuff.
Yeah, they're cool about it. I don't think who's gonna knock down my door. You know what I mean? Like no one's gonna come.
I don't know how strict they are. I don't think they're that
I'm
strict.
low on the priority list. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean.
So, but that's a newer development. Yeah, like the first. So going back, answer your first question. My first role ever, I was a freshman, and Chris Macy, Mr. Macy, phenomenal trumpet player. He's in Lawrence County Brass.
Oh, he's the best.
So he was my band teacher all through childhood. Like
Yeah, he's
I played trombone.
Yeah, great
and
guy too.
All the
huh?
bands. Yeah, great guy. Absolutely. And so he came up to me. He was like in band one day, and he was like, I need you to audition for the musical. I need guys, please. Just like push a cart across the stage, just be in the ensemble, like anything. I just need boys, please.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely not. Because I don't know if it's still this way, but at the time it was just like, if you're not a sports star, like you will get punished in school.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Socially, I mean.
Especially in a smaller school like Union.
Yeah, and I grew to regret that because I
you stood
remember
out.
being asked a lot to like do dance recitals at the
DC?
or no, just like at the cathedral or like to be a male partner and then I got to college and started studying with all these like world-class movement teachers who are like, hey, you have a dancer's body, like, and I was like, fuck, I should have been doing this. But not to regret all the sports that I played growing up. I don't.
It helps with other stuff.
Of course. And team sports teach you how to play a role and how to be a small domino in a much larger chain. And a lot of people in theater could take a lesson from that.
And vice versa.
I don't know, man.
Nah.
I mean, like, I see the people on sports teams that I saw that had big heads were at least talented enough to have them. I mean, unless it was a political thing, like, you know, coach's son or whatever. Like,
Yeah, which happens.
But if you're like the talented asshole on a sports team, you're still gonna play. I mean, I guess on a professional level, you see people get kicked out because they don't get along with owners and coaches and stuff. But I think like actors, I don't know, man.
You
It's
can't be as
different.
big of an asshole.
I
as
don't
an actor.
know. I don't know. You got to be really good, or to put butts in those seats.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
I can't be. I don't.
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix can, I guess. You know, he just stepped out of a project that he was apparently really involved in. Did you see that? Yeah, it was
A film.
It was an LBGTQ
Oh,
movie,
okay.
and I guess he was really attached to it, and then got cold feet and was like, "Peace out."
Yeah.
But I mean, he's won Academy Awards. So
Yeah, I mean, that's another.
But you have experience more on like a larger scale, being that you did move to Chicago.
I did.
And-
So the first couple years in college or in high school, it was like one musical a year. So anyway, to finish that story, eventually I acquiesced. I auditioned, and then he gave me the sides for the British dude, Sir Evelyn Oakley.
Yeah,
In the second revision of Anything Goes, because there's like 4 revisions.
Oh,
of it.
really?
Yeah,
That's
there's
how
a
many?
bunch of different casts or scripts. for it.
Versions, yeah, different names. even.
So, and characters and plots and things. So I auditioned and he gave me the part and I was like, what the fuck?
You didn't expect it.
No, of course not. I was freaking out over it. And it turned out to be a roller coaster. I remember being like sick to my stomach about it. I remember being excited about it. And then we did it and it was everything, you know, like you're out of breath, you're exhausted, staring out into like the abyss and just a roar of applause. And you're like,
Oh, this is cool.
this is cool. Like, this was fun, and the cast party and everything. So then I did it the next year. I didn't do it my junior year because I was fighting lots of like social anxiety with like even like my basketball coaches a little bit. God bless them, they're great guys. Like I'm not just like, you know, like you get a little ridicule, like,
They don't know
can
any
I miss
better.
practice because we have the shows are this weekend, and it's like, oh,
And then they say, "Oh, did you put your tutu on?"
that shit, or like, what are you doing, Annie? And
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, actually, we are doing Annie. And Annie was sick, dude. Like the rooster, you know, like getting to
That's
do
a
like
great
a little
part.
sort of like a little
Yeah, New York,
scammy
yeah.
kind of New Yorky kind of like, and it was the first time I got to, I don't know, like throw everything aside and just, I don't know, in a weird way, be myself.
Yeah.
Like not be so, because every time I was on a sports team, I felt like I was trying to be someone else.
You're kind of.
And then when I got into
yeah.
theater, I was like, oh my God, this is like the first time like I don't have to, I can actually express myself with more truth through this fictional character than I can like in my own fucking life with my own clothes and my own voice. And
Yeah.
that was like a trip. So I didn't do it my
Yeah.
junior year. I did it my senior year, and we did Kiss Me Kate, Cole Porter. Man,
I love that musical.
I mean, it's amazing, but like Fred Petruchio, the role I played, I was
Yeah.
not ready for. I mean, I basically watched Brett Barrett.
It was like
The
Mr.
19
like baritone and
the-
like.
but he still has high C's and D's. Like he's
Yeah,
up there.
he's a
like,
freak,
but with
yeah.
that, you're right. He does have that operatic sort of
Is he still alive?
timbre to him. Oh, I hope so. I don't
so,
think he's
yeah.
that old. But it was the 1999 London cast, and I watched it over and over and over. And I basically just copy and pasted his performance, right? Like, because
Which
in the new music director at the time, the band director, Mr. Westcott, he helped me, and Mr. Godwin, sorry.
okay.
They helped me with the music, and I had never really sang before, and I was like, oh, I don't like this.
Because you had played, and this was your
Senior year.
Senior year. So you did Evelyn Oakley.
Freshman year, then Rooster, then Nothing.
Then nothing. Wow. So you did nothing your junior.
No, because we were doing Annie Get Your Gun. It was 3 hours long. It was a nightmare process. I
Yeah.
just wanted to focus on basketball and try to fit in. And maybe that was a mistake, but we also didn't have like a drama class. Like we didn't have a drama teacher. That was just the musical. And if you were lucky if you had a couple dads who were willing to come in and build a set. And we did. We had a dad come in and build a fucking double spiral staircase for the shit.
Aren't those guys the real heroes?
And
of
they
these shows?
are
I mean,
the real heroes, and
those
you learn,
guys-
like, you
those
think, like,
dads.
oh, I want the life of, like, the star. No, you don't. You really don't. You
Yeah.
really don't. And I learned that really the hard way when I got to Chicago. But to go back a little bit, like, I had a random couple come up to me after one of the shows at Union, and they were like, hey, you should go to the Playhouse. Like, you know, you should think about this. And I was like, not really good at like taking compliments, or like not really good at saying, thanks for appreciating the effort I put forward in this art, and like extending that compliment or whatever. Yeah. So I go audition, bye birdie. Sick to my stomach about it.
I heard your audition.
I get it. Did you?
I was behind.
You were there?
I auditioned like maybe 1 or 2 people.
I was shaking. It
sounded great.
Terrified. Thanks.
Because you
I
sang,
did. You remember?
Grow for Me.
You remember my audition song? I worked on that for so long. Yeah, I did Grow for Me from Little Shop of Horrors, because you know why it was? Because someone told me that he had played that role in the past and that he would like it if I did that. And
so he did.
He did.
He did like it.
So I ended up booking my first gig
as
Conrad Birdie.
And
then I reconnected with you.
Yes. We really met for real. We knew each other at the pool. And
yeah,
things
but
that.
like we connected and we started hanging out every night, like after rehearsal. Your house, Ben's house. Mm-hmm. We met Ben, and Ben became Coy. Everyone. If we could sit here and list all 15, 20 of us, because it's a big cast. That's it's a big.
But
cast.
the core of us that was hanging out was me, you, Ben, and Coy were most of the time.
Yes, that was the squad. Like we like making like water bottle bongs and like trying to I'm smoking cigarettes. Like I thought it was so fucking cool, dude. And I had the Bye Bye
on stage too. So
well, that's what that didn't help, because they gave me, not to throw the Newcastle Playhouse under the bus here or anything, or Michael Cavalier, God bless you, I love you, but I had to, they were like, just light this Marlboro Red and we want you to put it out on the stage. And now I've done professional theater, right? Like at some of the top theaters in the country. Never will you ever see a live fire. And that reminds me to tell the story about Ben from Assassins.
Assassins, yes. Yeah.
After this.
The battle, yeah.
So I had dabbled, right? Like we grew up in Western Pennsylvania. I grew up chewing and like, like the nicotine kind of thing just like kicked in. So then I started.
You have to use nicotine if you live in Newcastle. How do you survive if you don't use nicotine?
So I know, right? Well, now it's like so I remember they gave me the pack of cigarettes, and I had started kind of dabbling. Like I'd started kind of smoking here and there. And I would like take those, and I would take a big rip off stage and come on with it instead of lighting it on stage, and it would extend a little longer every time. Mm-hmm. And they're like, "Hey, there's only like 2 cigarettes left in the box." And I was like, "Oh, I'll replace them. Like, don't worry about that." Like, I was just smoking all of them and taking some to go. They were like, "Wait, we've only had this many performances, and there's only this many cigarettes left." So yeah, that was a fucking trip to be able to, and that stuck.
And KK, Sarah Kate, she had to smoke it too, didn't she? Sorta.
Yeah, she tried to. I think she had to smoke it to try to like look cool in front of Conrad or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember, but I also remember how, just to speak to how amazing that set was. Like we all came in to
telephone hour
to help paint, and the telephone hour was, if anyone's familiar with the show, like it opens up and it's all the girls are calling each other. Have you heard the news? Have you heard the news? And it's like these colorful pop-ups, these squares, almost like Hollywood squares. And we came in, we painted that shit, helped build. Like it was
all the portals, everything was different colors.
All the portals, everything. It was.
You can actually see it if you go back to the.
They still have them?
No, Ben's Dramatures episode on YouTube that we did. The web thing.
Yes, of course.
We did a pilot
because it was the set at the time. So
that was the set.
So we met Ben, and Ben kind of immediately became like a mentor to me. Ben was playing Albert. He was playing like the lead role of the real lead role of the play. And
Ben's experienced. And
Ben's been there, done that. Like he knows what's up: music, musical theater, acting, theater. Like comedy, writing, everything. Like I sort of like immediately gravitated to him and his.
He's like a big brother.
Yeah, and his like knowledge and his like. Showing me TV shows and like talking about acting, and he was the first one that came to me that said like, "Hey, have you thought about considering this further?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, like auditioning at a conservatory and majoring in it in college. I was like, "You can major in theater in college?" Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So he was like, I went to DePaul, and he had gone through like these programs used to be fucking brutally cutthroat. Like DePaul, for example, you would get in, they would accept 52 kids, and no matter what, at the end of the first year, going into the second year, they cut it in half to 26. Didn't matter.
Sorry.
That's work.
Yeah.
CMU, Carnegie Mellon, Cincinnati Conservatory of Music, Juilliard were even worse. You could get all the way through junior year and going into it, and they're like, "Sorry, we can't let you graduate with our name on your
on your diploma.
Yeah,
on your resume.
You're not there." So anyway, Ben, who is one of the most talented, skilled people I've ever met in my life, was subject to that cut. So he comes back, does theater here. We meet him, lucky enough to do a play with him, and he like sort of, you know, we just spend the entire summer like
he loved you. I mean, he
geeking
really did
out
look
about
like you.
theater and like watching the recording of Rent in your basement, and like watching recordings of Broadway shows, watching the Tony Awards together, like all that stuff. Got to Duquesne because I had already committed there earlier in my senior year for science, and I drowned immediately. Like, I thought I liked chemistry. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, mainly because Scrubs was my favorite TV show.
That has to do with art, yeah.
But
it's an art form.
I was conflating art with real life. But I did want to help people, and I was interested in. I think there might have been a little bit of ego in there, like saying like I wanted to be the guy who, you know, someone falls over and they're like, we need a doctor. And I'm like, everybody sit down. I'm the doctor. Like, shut the fuck up. I'm going to help here, right? So I think there was a little bit of ego in there. But also, my mom's a nurse and my stepdad's a nurse. And, like, a bunch of my aunts and uncles are physical therapists and nurses. And my aunt was the head nurse in the ER at Jameson for decades.
So
and I just have a respect for it, and I wanted to do it. And then I got there, and 75% of the kids in that major after the first year either withdraw or fail. And I took my first hard academic L.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, I don't know. I just wasn't ready for it. I think
probably weren't real into it.
I needed a time. No, I was. They said you should, for every hour of class time, you should be doing 4 hours of homework. So I had 3 hours of class a day. Then that means 12 hours of homework every night. I can't commit to that. I'm 18. I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm smoking weed. I'm like drinking with my friends. I'm meeting people who are different from from Philadelphia and from, you know, like the South and from all these places. And I'm like, I wanted to connect with people.
Yeah.
More than I wanted to study really hard for that payoff and for the prestige and respect,
especially at that age,
a doctor would get like later in your career, like, you know, in your late 20s or whatever. I just wasn't ready for that. And at the same time, I was catching the acting bug. So everything was on the way to move into Duquesne. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I think I want to audition for theater school. She's like, well, can we just give it a semester?
Yeah.
Can we just give it a shot? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, but once I got there and realized how like hard it was and how not ready I actually was for it, I went to the head of the theater department, John Lane, who was a hard ass. And he's super tall dudes.
Big guy.
White hair, like real pronounced face, like just a very... And I went to him in full earnesty, full naive, like young. And I walked right into his office and I was like, hey, like I was wondering if there was a teacher available for private lessons. I want to audition for another school. And he was kind of like, well, I should tell you to fuck off. Basically, yeah. He was, and I was like, what? And he was like, I mean, you're here. We've expressed interest in you doing theater here. You could do as many roles here as you want, but you want to go off to some better program. And I was like, fair. Like, I hear you. And I was like, but you can't deny at the same time that programs like DePaul, Carnegie Mellon, USC, Juilliard, NCST, like top D1 style conservatory programs churn out professional actors, and that's what I want to do, and this and that, and da-da-da-da. So I found Nancy Bach, who was a teacher there, who is truly like one of the most wicked, talented, sharp women I've ever met in my life. Like, if you ever get a chance or you're curious and you like want to have like a monologue session or like a, you know, like you want to brush something up or like call her, go down for a set, dude. Oh my God. Like, I walked in thinking I was hot shit, you know, come from Newcastle, get the lead role in the plays in high school, get the lead role here, get the lead role, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I don't know who you think you are. And I got humbled real quick.
You put you right in your place.
Because at the same time, she was like, I want to do this play second semester, and I want you to audition for it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I drop out of chemistry. I get through my first semester, and I switch over to a liberal arts. And then I do my audition. I prep for my audition with her all first semester. I like didn't care what grade. I got an A, a B, a C, and a D, and a withdrawal that semester. 1.8.
You went all the way down the board.
I went the whole way down the list. And so I remember after I called my mom after failing the first test, just like feeling like something wasn't right. Like I wasn't in the right place, although I was making great friends and having great experiences.
Yeah.
So that winter, it's super, super cold. My dad and my uncle take me to Chicago into DePaul's old theater building, which is like 2-3 old buildings connected together. It's like fucking Hogwarts. Like, you couldn't get from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor via one set of stairs, so you had to like loop. It was cool. It was like a cool old building. You go in and the shop was over here, so you hear like you hear people like working on the sets right there. Right. Everyone's napping over here. It's like whoa, like what is this? Like, this is like this is school. I had known school as a completely different thing, and I had, you know, coming from the ADHD generation where we're like, you know, like sitting. So I saw this like desk free, not notebook free, but like homework free path, and I think I kind of like attached that to delusions of grandeur of like, oh, this is the thing I'm best at. My whole life I tried everything. I did everything from fucking golf to ping pong to gymnastics to all of it. I tried it all. This was what I was best at. That people came up and said, yo, wow, you're really good at that. I was never a state champion track runner or a starter on the basketball team, or like I was.
Yeah, you're a good athlete, but it wasn't like.
No, I wasn't. I was a very average athlete. I'm a good golfer. I was a good golfer. I could have maybe done that, but that I didn't want that to be the most stressful thing in my life. Golf is too much fun to do that. So I had these delusions of grandeur of like, oh, all these people I'm watching on True Blood and Dexter and like all these like HBO Showtime series went to these programs, and I'm going to one of these programs. So like I could hit the lottery, boom, roll the craps, and there you go. And cats I went to school with did like mega celebrities, like big motherfuckers.
Oh, really? Like ones that you went
that I sat on Belmont Avenue and rolled cigarettes with outside the theater for our school show that are now like, and they're great. They're wonderful. It's no shade. It's just crazy seeing the progression and seeing like, even within that realm, like there was a circle of like, okay, these 4 kids, like one of them is gonna hit it. One of them is gonna. Yeah. Every year there's one, and it was also like just a straight acting program. I wasn't good enough to get into a musical theater program. I wish I had maybe had the chops, but like, because that's what I really wanted to do. Yeah. Like deep down. Yeah. I wish.
Musical theater?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Well, I still daydream about it. Like in the small bits I've tasted like professionally have been great, but like I remember I got called in for Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway in 2017. I couldn't sing any of the songs. Not what they were like.
Well, it's
like high. I'm like, dude, you're up here belting B naturals, and I'm barely learning how to sing and find my voice, and like, but I'm a good actor. Like that was one thing I could snap into what they call like given circumstances,
which is the most important thing to be
in a way, but in commercial musical theater, you got to be a machine. You got to be able to sing and plant and belt and get that shit out. And if you're a good actor, like sure, that tacks it on, but I think like I go to Book of Mormon to get my face blown off by tenors. Yeah. I go to Sister Act.
We listen to a lot of Book of Mormon together,
dude. And now I have a friend who's in Book of Mormon. I have a friend who's in Wicked on Broadway. I have a friend who's in the Michael Jackson musical on Broadway, and they're all great singers and dancers. But could you take the emotional arc of Hamlet? Could you take the emotional arc of a TV serial killer? Could you take the emotional arc? I don't know. Everyone has a different facet, and we all exist on a different spectrum. Like, I could sit here and talk shit all I want on Broadway actors and say they can't act, but they're making $2,500 a week or $2,000 a week on Broadway, and I'm waiting tables. Yeah. So, you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
no, for sure. I mean,
a lot of straight actors will like talk shit on musical theater. I'm like, do you realize how much athleticism and skill that takes? And if you can attach an ounce of truthful emotion to a song that you're singing, that is the hardest thing I've ever seen anyone do live on stage ever.
And when they really pull it off, man, it's one of the best things you've ever seen.
It gives you chills. It makes you go home and call your mom and be like, I love you, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? You know, it's like, it changes. And that's why you go, and that's why we do it, and that's why we have this weird phenomenon of all gathering in a space and splitting into 2 groups, one of which is watching and one of which is performing. And we don't know of any civilization that hasn't done that in some form. Every single one. Why? I don't know. That's why I keep asking the question. That's why I can't give up yet.
Well, I mean, what's there to give up on? How old are you? 30 years old.
No, I don't mean that.
I'm saying like you still. Right. There's nothing to worry about. I mean.
No. I just mean because it follows that life hits you in different ways, right? Like, so for example, like, you know, personally speaking, like in Chicago, I had some long relationships. And I never really like gave myself the chance to grow into my adult, like the man that I wanted to become, like as a kid. The man that like the kid version of myself would be like, whoa, like when Danny Phantom comes back, but it's future Danny Phantom.
Yeah.
He's like, who is this strong ass dude who's just like dogging me at every turn? It's like, that's you from the future, like teaching you a lesson. Like that's the person I want to be. And I feel like it took me like 10 years of kind of drowning myself in like distractions, whether it was like weed or women or video games or like, you know, excuses or whatever, like, or putting it off till, by the time I'm 25, by the time I'm 30, I'll have X, Y, Z, or by the time I do this, like these arbitrary sort of markers that you set. And so then, and I had been through a shit show professionally as well. So then like 10 years, like fast forward 13 years, like I get into conservatory, I'm elated.
Yeah.
Or rather rewind. Like I could take you, it was St. Patrick's Day in 2012, and it was the warmest St. Patrick's Day in like Western Pennsylvania recorded history. It was like 80 degrees. And my friends and I were like, okay, everybody's gonna get a case of beer to themselves. We're just gonna kill it all day. We're gonna walk around, we're gonna go to the parade, or go to the south side, do the thing. And so like we wake up, I had already gone to my audition, which blew my mind.
What audition for your?
The one at DePaul, for DePaul.
For DePaul.
To get in there. And it was like all this weird shit, and it was like an 8-hour long day, and like it went from 119 or 117 to 19 that day, and then 2 of us from that day got in. So I felt really special. And I felt really like, oh yeah,
because
like
you were already
top of the world. I was in. I was ready to go. No, I wasn't. But so then go back to March, and we're walking downtown in Pittsburgh, and I can take you to the sidewalk square on Forbes Avenue, where my mom called me and was like, hey, something came from DePaul. And I was like, well, open it. And she's like, I don't have to. It says welcome on the front. And I just like, and that day was just like a party for the rest of the day. And it was, so I was elated. You know, the rest of the year was a breeze. I was sad to leave my friends, but I knew that I had to like go, you know, like Alchemists. You ever read The Alchemist?
No.
Short read. I'm not a good reader. It changed my life last year. I read it last September. It changed my life.
I've heard of it.
It was like that in tandem with The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron.
Okay.
Who was married to Martin Scorsese for a little while, and he used the book, and like lots of famous like writers.
Really?
And it's like, it's kind of like a artistic recovery process, like 12 weeks based on like the 12-step program, and you sort of like address, you kind of like, we'll talk about that later. But like it was great. So that was like the next part of the journey. So I went to Chicago, and I just immersed myself in it. Like I just went as deep as I could. Like I had already knocked out a ton of general eds at Duquesne, so I didn't have to I could just take theater classes.
Oh my gosh.
So I just went.
Amazing.
So I just went hard, and I smoked a lot of weed, and I like distracted myself a lot because I was also wanting to get away from home because there was a lot of tumultuous family shit that I was going through. So I was like, part of like. All my family was like, why don't you audition on Carnegie Mellon? Why don't you audition on Carnegie Mellon? I'm like,
you need it.
Because I don't want to.
Well, that's the same thing that Cassie did. My wife, she went from New Jersey. She had all these New York schools she could have went to. She went to Point Park because she needed to get out.
Right, and Point Park's a fucking great school.
Yeah.
And I almost went there.
Oh yeah, you did.
But it was like a backup. But like, there wasn't really like any other. I didn't feel like I had another choice. I felt like I have to go and see. And I have to go and dedicate myself as hard as I can to this because I came from a sports background and I knew how hard you had to work for certain things. And then I met a bunch of kids who were there who had done theater all through middle school, all through all these things. And I didn't even know what the word blocking meant. It was like embarrassing. Right. And so I just tried to play catch up as quickly as I could.
You were learning all these little terms.
And then by the time like junior, senior year rolled around, like I had some of these old school Chicago, like world-renowned professors being like, hey, like you have a promising career if you like keep locked in like this.
Mm-hmm. And this is early on.
No, this was like junior, senior year.
Okay, so you had a couple years.
Like when I started, well, my second year as well, like I had a teacher who saw like potential. So then like all that happened, senior year, we hear about all the auditions that are coming up, audition, and then that'll segue into that whole chapter.
So, yeah. So you, okay. So you graduated. You graduated from DePaul.
16.
And then was that like one of your first auditions? Was In the Heights?
No, because I had gotten signed with an agency. Like in our fourth year, part of like the curriculum was meeting agents and auditioning for them, and like a lucky, I don't know, half dozen, 10 people get offers like right off the bat.
Okay.
And so I got an offer and I just clamped down on it because it was a good agency in Chicago.
Yeah.
I won't say who it is because I'm not with them anymore and I don't have very nice things to say about them.
Fair.
But and they were, they could get a lot of work. And this was a very different time. This was pre-COVID. This was when you would like rush downtown to an audition, wait in line, go do your thing, then rush across town to another audition, and then go back, and then.
And how competitive was it at the time? Was it
I
pretty
felt,
competitive in Chicago?
I felt really confident leaving school because my skills were. I thought the better you were, the better chance you had. Boy, was I wrong. And I don't mean that. I'm not like tooting my own horn. I'm just saying like I'm the hardest worker in this room. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I know
Every first rehearsal, I look around. I'm like, who's going to work half as hard? Who's going to be here before me? Who's going to leave after me? Nobody. None of you are. Because the second anyone, well, not anyone, I shouldn't say that. I'm generalizing, and my jadedness is coming out.
Oh, it's okay. No,
So
it's good. It's good.
I admit it.
It's
I
real.
admit it because, like, I will see people work, like, playing games off to the side on their phone or, like, still calling for line and tech. And, like, it's like, you realize we're professional? Do you realize this is a professional?
So even in that level, it's like,
Absolutely. So then that was a huge mindfuck because I was like in school in high school I could never get anyone to like take it serious. I was like, aren't you embarrassed? Like, don't you want this to be good? Like, don't you have any, I guess, pride is like the sin
care.
here.
Yeah.
And then I was like, when I get to DePaul, everyone will care. Everyone will be really good. Wrong. Still, people don't care. They're not trying as hard. They're misguided. They're like, it's like just take the bits and the tools that they're giving us and apply them and try to use them. And if it's all subjective. It's not like it's not like there's a score.
Yeah.
Like you can't argue whether or not you made a shot in basketball. It just either it went in or it didn't. But in art, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to the museum and see a pile of bottle caps in the corner that's sold for $250,000 to some bullshit artist because it stands for climate change. It's a pile of bottle caps.
Yeah.
It might have a strong message, but there's no skill behind it. And that turned into this whole movement of like, I'm enough. Yes, in life, everyone is enough.
Yeah.
You come to the table, you're welcome. You eat, you drink, you sit, you hang, you're always welcome for coffee at my table. You are enough. But in work, and in the pursuit of art, you are not enough. You're not born art. You plus skill, plus effort, plus time, plus blood, sweat, and tears, and practice over and over and over. That's enough.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or not, I respect it
You gotta
because
work.
it's effort.
You're working at it.
But if you're just, and I see people, for years, I would go to professional shows, friends shows in Chicago, shows all around the world, shows in New York, and I just see someone walking out on stage, waving their arms around.
Yeah.
Like, you're just waving your arms around. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You're not. And maybe that's me because, like, I've done it so much that I, like, am super, super judgmental when I see a show. But I'm also willing. I want to go to a show and be like, whew,
Right.
damn.
Right.
And I go with that every time. But then, especially shows that, like, you would see that maybe you were in consideration for, or shows that, like, your city is doing or your community is doing, and you go and you're just like, you had all these hardworking people,
And you cut 'em.
and you chose the person who is working the least hard, or who sounds. I went to see a Shakespeare show, and they got this person for reasons that weren't because they were best for the role. And I sat down in the first line of Richard III. Now is the winter of our discontent, right? Make glorious summer, this and that, and so on.
I don't know Shakespeare like you.
And
but I
and
believe you.
and I said, oh my God, this woman's gonna bark at me for 3 hours, isn't she? And she proceeded to do that. And guess what? She got amazing reviews. Amazing reviews.
By like all the papers in Chicago.
Everybody, this is revolutionary. Da, 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 da. Why?
Yeah.
What? Where are the colors? Where are the dynamics? It would just be like me taking my
just one
trombone
volume.
on stage and the same shit over and over and over and over again. There's no plasticity. Like we want to see these stories because they don't happen to us in real life every day.
Right.
They really don't. Your uncle doesn't kill your father and marry your mother and take over the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? This kind of shit doesn't happen every day. So we go to the imaginary place to be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
wow, like the Tudors and Succession, and you
You get a whole lifetime fix in 2 hours.
you
or
get
something.
that. So what we want to do as actors and performers is we want to stretch that rubber band for people. and you want to see how far you can stretch it before it snaps. That's what makes like literal tension and that feeling where you're like, oh, what they're gonna do? What are they gonna do? Like, oh my God! Like when Romeo is about, Romeo and Juliet well enough to know that like she's fake asleep. Yeah. He doesn't know that. He takes the poison as she starts to stir, and we're all in the audience. We're just like, wait 30 seconds, dude. Just wait a second.
Yeah, that's good shit.
And it's when done right or proper, and that goes for dying on stage. That goes for any circumstance, being cold, being hot, being like whatever kind of message you're trying to get across with your action. Actors are only goal is to provide action, and walking around in circles on stage with your arms flailing around saying words is not action.
Right.
It's low level elementary theater school bullshit, and I cannot tell you the amount of money I've seen wasted on things that don't.
And this is happening on the professional
This is
level.
happening on a professional scale
So
for
it's
theaters
everywhere.
who are losing money and losing subscriber bases and losing ticket sales because the pandemic hit it hard enough that you have to, and that shit. And whether it was my own, man,
They were trying to hand out equity cards at one point. Hey,
they
you gotta
were.
pay
They cut the price, and I didn't join at that point. I waited until I got offered on a job, and whether that was the right call or not. But I can't quite. I think part of the thing I'm still kind of deciphering in my life is like whether or not whether it was all worth it, but like whether or not I was doing it for the right reason, or like maybe I like learned a really hard lesson and industry politics and like the things that go beyond just like it doesn't matter how good you are at studying a script and becoming a character. Because you might not know the director, you might not know the producer, you might not be next on the list. Right. I can't tell you how many last round callbacks, last round holds I've been on for TV shows, movies, national tours, big shows, Broadway shows, where I get to the end and I ask, and I don't get it, and I'm like, any feedback, anything I could, like, for next time, like, just so you know, like, I want this. I'm ready to work for it. So for next time, what could I do better? Oh, nothing. It was perfect. It was everything we were looking for. We just went with a different direction. Well, that doesn't fucking help, does it?
No.
Because there's no tangible thing that I can fix.
Right.
I can't change how I was born, which is why I don't like when people offer me roles because I'm Italian. No. No, I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with being born in Western Pennsylvania. That was luck of the gods, luck of God, luck of the universe, whatever.
Yeah.
Luck. You don't want to call it lucky being born in Newcastle,
but
you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the randomness to it. You know what isn't random? Me coming in every day 45 minutes early to work on shit, to stretch out, to make sure I'm ready for rehearsal that day. Me knowing all my shit and coming in professional, ready to go, ready to offer everything that director might need. Staying afterwards, working hard. That is not luck. That is all stuff. And when I tried
It's
to
like
build
a Kobe Bryant work ethic.
but the reputation of the first gig just followed and kind of like, set the tone for a couple harder years after that.
And that had to do with, and it wasn't even your fault.
Well, yeah, we could get into it. So I graduated, first gig out of college. I booked the lead role in The Heights at Porchlight Music Theater. As Usnavi.
Which is the
it's my
same
favorite
role that
Lin-Manuel Miranda played. Yeah. My favorite musical. I love it. I still to this day I can't listen to it. I cry every time I listen to it. I'll never forget. I worked really hard. I booked it. Some people I went to college with, including teachers and colleagues and co-students, like kind of just like started saying a couple things, but it was because this dude who was up for the role didn't get it and wrote this huge article, this public article about how like I'm white, we're whitewashing this and that, and like it's not authentic and this and that. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe I'm white in Chicago, but like in New Wilmington, I have people come up to me and be like, you're not from here, are you?
Yeah. Well, you're Southern Italian.
We don't get much
descent.
ethnicity here.
Yeah.
I get that at work regularly. So here, like coming from small town where it's like being Italian still means like, they're Italian.
Yeah.
And then being in a big city, it's like, yeah, being Italian is white. It's the same fucking thing. And I was like, I didn't know that. So I kind of went through this identity crisis of like, they were like, white boy, like pitchfork and grab your pixels. I was like, where? Let me at him. Where is he? I was like, I'm like, me? I'm like, bro, what do you mean? Like, My grandfather got his fucking nose broken for being Italian not that long ago.
I know.
And so
Well,
discrimination is
I
still
was
real.
devastated for you.
So anyway, so then it starts going public. Then like big newspapers are starting to write about it. Like all from LA to New York, theater news, everybody knows about it. I remember on Facebook you jumped in.
I did.
And I remember sitting there and you jumped to my defense and I was like, "Oh, Marky, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Marky."
Yeah, they're gonna eat me alive.
And the sharks you jump in on that social media banter and those comment sections start getting 150, 200, 350 comments long. And this was in the day when that wasn't, like now every Instagram post has 20,000 comments and likes and all that shit.
And this was back before, I mean, there wasn't even that much controversy back then as there is now with everything. Like,
No, everything's
a complaint,
right? And this was, I was kind of like an example. I needed to be made an example because even though I did feel like, hey, like this is the only dude on Broadway that I feel like I look like. Or like, hey, like my great grandparents went through the same thing that Usnavi went through. So I can like identify, or Dominicans are mostly Catholic, Italians are mostly Catholic.
Yeah.
Dominicans mostly have big families. I started looking for all the similarities and how I could like do it with as much honor as I could. And
that's the right way to go about it.
So like people start like, I go to this like mixer at my agency and just for like drinks and like meet other people in the industry and I'm starting to get dirty looks and I see the kid who auditioned for like my cousin in the show and I was like, "Hey bro, like how did it go? Like did you like I had heard that he turned it down." I was like, "Did you turn it down?" Like we had become friends at the audition, like real good friends.
Oh wow.
Like me and this kid, like we were hitting it off, we were talking, we were hanging out in between rounds, like we were like, and he won't talk to me. He's getting all heated. We go into this side room and these other kids follow us. Like these other dudes like my age, like at the agency, because they want to see the beef. And I'm like, "I don't have beef, bro. Like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? This and that." Da, da, da. Turns into this argument. I'm like, "I hope you shake my hand." Like he was shaking. Like I thought he was gonna fucking punch me, dude. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Start going out to bars or like opening nights of shows and people are like giving me weird looks. People are calling for me to step down. So I'm like, "Fuck this." Like, and I could go like I'm gonna step down. And the cast is like, "No, you can't step down. Like you earned it, this and that, da da da." Abuela, everyone else was like, "You're doing this." So I did it as best as I could with as much honor.
So you had the support of the cast.
I had the support of the cast, but also some of them were put in a position. How were they going to fight? Like, what were they going to say?
Right.
Yeah, get out of here.
Right.
Save our asses. No, they were put in a really tough position, and I've had many teary-eyed conversations with a lot of them where I like thanked them for. It felt selfish of me, and that's where it really boils down to when you said it's not my fault. Like, no, it's not my fault, but my direct action led to all of it. Like. Because everyone says like because everyone says like, "Oh, like, well, it wasn't you didn't cast yourself, da da da." They're not allowed to ask your ethnicity. Yes, all of this is true, but I still went in for the role. I still went in for that role. Do I want someone else of a different ethnicity to play Eddie in A View from the Bridge, representing the Italian American dock workers in Hoboken and Brooklyn in the 50s and 60s? No. I want to tell my story. I want to do the stage version of My Cousin Vinny with you one day.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that, and so I understood.
But
there's a
lot of people that aren't Italian that play Italians every day.
Well, yeah, but I think what I was getting at is like it does matter. It does matter to see yourself represented on stage and on screen by people who know your story.
Yeah.
And I think we crossed a really fine line with me because like I don't necessarily I look like, yes, the first question I get asked everywhere is like, "What are you?" Like, "Hey, what are you?"
Yeah, because you're.
What ethnicity are you? Because it's ambiguous. Ethnically ambiguous actors died with me. Well, like that's a fucking big thing to say. Like, you know what I mean? With that era in theater,
it kind of.
I'm still used as a verb in articles today about it in Chicago. Someone will say like, "Oh, so and so Jack Decesare their way into that player." You know what I mean? Like it'll be like that kind of thing. So I'm like, so it's big enough to follow me where people are like, "Oh, get over it." Da da da. It's like, well, yeah, I was under a microscope, bro.
My biggest shock was like, wow, like he's like, of all people.
Like my heart's in the right place. I promise. I don't have any ill intent. And so like I had so many people, like Latino people, working class people, to come to see the show who came up to me and loved it after the show. This group of ladies from Puerto Rico who came up for a bachelorette party, and I told every single person, I was like, "Just so you know, like I'm Italian, I'm not Dominican." They were like, "We don't care. Like you spoke Spanish really, really good. Like that was great. That was fantastic. Like thank you so much. Like finally our story on stage." And I was like, but the people in the theater, on the theater side of it, were like, "Fuck this. Like, you're taking a job from a hardworking Latino who didn't have access to training like you didn't." I was like, damn, you're right. I get it.
You saw that
because
side.
I had people coming to to fight for my side, like, and be like, it doesn't really matter, blah. And I was like, you're not helping either. Like, no,
Sorry.
no, I didn't mean it like that. I just mean like,
I just,
because and then that's when I
Why
learned.
did the Andy Garcia comparison? I said Andy Garcia gets to play all these Italians, and he's the team. I mean,
no, I don't want to. And Theo
That's
Rossi's on Sons of Anarchy, and
But
like
I
that's
see-
the
I
thing. It's like North African, Arab, like Turkish, Istanbul, Greece, and Spanish. Those ships were going back and forth all across the Italian coastline, Sicilian coastline. All that whole area is mix and match bloodlines, and so like that's where I get like where I look and how I look. And again, I didn't get hired because of how I look. I got hired because I was able to produce a single fucking tear during Alabanza when it needed to be done, because I had crafted an emotion, because I worked really hard on crafting an emotional moment to happen during the audition. And that's really hard to do. I still struggle with that. Like,
that's impressive to do.
Laughing, crying, screaming, and shouting is to do that healthily and to do that truthfully is a really hard thing to do. And when you have to cry or sob or like put emotion behind something, and they saw that I was trying to do that at least, I know for a fact, because the assistant director and someone else years later told me that was what got me the role, because it was between me and that other dude who ended up writing all those articles.
Wow.
So like, and then at the same time, like the shit that I'm really good at, that I fit perfectly in, I'm getting cast out of. Like Shakespeare. Like, I'm a young Italian dude who knows how to sword fight.
Yeah.
Every play that Shakespeare fucking wrote, dude, like, come on, like, hook me up.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I can do it. I know it. Like, what is it, bro? Like, am I trying too hard? Do I need to cut my hair? Do I need 15 more pounds of muscle? What is it? I've even asked my agents this. And every time the answer is the same. Don't change. You're your own type. Don't change. Da-da-da-da-da. This and that. I'm like, but there has to be. My brain tells me, coming from a hardworking place, and that where merit and reward are connected, but in this industry it's not, is that the harder I work, the better chance I have at it happening. But it seems like for the last 10 years, like the harder I work, the deeper the hole gets. And I have had, and then you have to step back and be like, whoa, dude, chill. Like, look at the resume. Look at what you've done. Like, I got to tour the country with a Tony Award-winning director.
What was that for?
That was for a play called The Notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
By Mary Zimmerman.
When was this?
This was 2021 through the end of 22.
So like COVID was still kind of like
COVID was still a thing. It was my first show back from COVID, and it was the first time the Goodman Theater had asked me to audition, and they're like the biggest theater in Chicago, like the Equity House.
And this was for the Goodman Theater. They were doing a touring show.
I didn't know that at the time. I just had gotten a call to understudy, to send in a tape to understudy. So like, we get these weird paragraphs, and she's like, pick. There's 14 of them. You could do whatever you want. Craft your own audition. And I was like, oh, geez. Because she's involved with this company in Chicago called Looking Glass Theater, who's like David Schwimmer and like a bunch of other Northwestern grads who are really into movement style, like circus theater. They put together a crew. And so they're interested in like open-ended auditions, which always scared me, because I was like, where's my script? Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
It's like, you come up with it. So I was like, oh, fuck. So I did one just kind of flat, like, not flat, but like just straight monologue. And then the second one I picked, I played guitar too. And I tried to associate like the chord changes I was playing with the turns of the emotional turns of the monologue, right? So like, then first time in my life, I booked the understudy off of the tape. I didn't have to go back in. I booked the understudy. And it was weird because before that, there was an understudy from another show that had dropped out, and they needed someone to come in last minute. So I go into audition for that like 2 weeks earlier, and I was off book, 4-page scene. And they were like, we have the scenes here if you want it. And I was like, I'm good. And she was like, you're off book? I was like, yeah. And then the director came in, and she was like, hey, he's off book. And I was like, yeah. Don't you need a last minute? Like, why is everyone so surprised? Why is everybody so surprised?
Because no one does that.
Don't you need a last minute replacement understudy? Didn't everybody get the fucking memo that it's a last minute replacement understudy? Like, we need to be ready to go on like tomorrow. If necessary. Now, obviously that's not really the case, because you would have a couple days in like a put-in rehearsal where they like put you in with the cast and you like learn the track. But I do it, I kill it, I cry again. In audition, in the scene, fucking nail it, don't get it. And I'm like,
what?
And I got a second callback that day for the same show, and I went back, kill it. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, like you feel like you're in like a Twilight Zone.
I felt like I was in Groundhog Day. I'm like, I'm killing. I'm like, it's not my ability. Like, it's not my skill. Like, I'm sharp. Like, I feel sharp. I feel good.
You feel it,
Even now, like the last couple auditions I've put on, I'm like, oh, dude, like, I feel fucking good, right?
Yeah.
So But it was a blessing in disguise, because if I had booked that, then I wouldn't have been able to do Da Vinci. So Da Vinci comes, and I meet Mary Zimmerman, who has a MacArthur Genius Grant and a Tony Award. And I'm like, oh. And like, she uses big words, and her presence fills the room, and there's no electronics in the room allowed ever, unless you're a stage manager.
What's this for? This
is for the Goodman, for the Leonardo da Vinci play.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get in there, and I just like meet some of these older, experienced, like decades deep actors, and I'm just like, oh fuck yeah. And I latched on, and I worked really, really hard. I lost some, like the 15 pounds I put over COVID, and I was like getting flexible again, working hard. And then she was doing a winter show that winter, because we did that in the fall. Oh no, we did it in the winter. And then that following fall, I got a call to do it. They wanted to do it in DC.
Okay.
And they were like, I was still non-equity, and everyone else was equity. So they were like, hey, my agents called me, were like, hey, so you are gonna get an offer, but there's a condition. And I was like, they want me to understudy 2 roles, and he was like 3. And I was like, okay, where's the, well, like, you know, so for a couple extra $100 a week, yeah. Like, you know, at least 100 extra for each role I'm playing, like per week, because it's a lot of work. I have to know half the play and all the male parts in the show. Like, what the fuck? And it's not easy shit. It's not like, hey, we're in a play and we're in a scene together. It's like someone's hanging from a bar and another person's like in a weird slow motion pose while you're hearing like Leonardo da Vinci's words from his notebooks to like reflections of water off. It's like the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's not a normal. It's very out there. And it's
like equivalent to like a David Lynch film on stage.
Kinda. I mean, it's very abstract. Like there's like strings and live birds in a cage and like all this weird fucking shit. Circus theater, really cool stuff. Like new to me. Like, cause we came from like, hey, here's your script, and then you do the 1, 2, 3, cha cha cha.
Yeah.
Hokey
like I've done some
pokey.
dinner theater and stuff, like which is like we call it like guerrilla theater kind of, but like circus theater. That sounds like.
I mean, there was some dangerous stunts that like we did in the show too. So. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I want to do it, but they're not going to offer me an equity contract to go to DC. But I'm like, obviously I'm going to do it. And I had gotten another offer to do a play, 2 plays in Chicago. One, I had done some shows at the Lyric Opera House, which is like a 3,600 seat opera house, like unbelievable. I didn't sing in the operas, obviously. I did like, in La Boheme, for example, the one that Rent is sort of loosely based on, like there's a bunch of scenes where like we played waiters in this high fancy restaurant. We had to like pour wine in tune with the music and like in tempo with the music.
Did you talk
like,
or was it?
No speaking roles, but fighting roles, or like we'd say things like, you know, sword fight in the background, bar fight in the background, things like that. But seeing things operate on that kind of scale was insane because, you know, like all the unions are involved very heavily with that. So I had that offer for Fiddler on the Roof. Go figure. I'm not Jewish. Yeah. But no one was gonna care.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, I don't think they care about the Jewish thing as much as they care.
No, now it's like.
Is it still like that?
Everybody in Chicago, especially.
I remember even when I played Mark and Rent, not to, but I remember somebody going, "Oh, like you're so cute, but yeah, you just aren't Jewish." Like, and someone said that to me, and I'm like, "Okay, but like I'm Italian. I don't know."
So,
I'm
the other side of the same coin.
Catholic.
Oh, there's like, 2 sides of the same coin.
Yeah,
the Old Testament. We follow the Old Testament.
Italian Catholics are great friends with Jewish
yeah,
people.
We love Jews. I love Jews.
Yeah.
No. And. So I turned those gigs down to go to DC, but I get there and I'm on a different pay schedule and I'm making half of what everyone else is making to learn 3 times the work. And I'm like, what? My castmates literally had to take me to the grocery store.
You were a true bargain.
That's when I said to myself, I'm done being good work for cheap. I work way too fucking hard. I put my heart and soul and hours of work into this to be hired for what is essentially minimum wage. I was walking away with nothing after taxes, and I was like I said, I couldn't even buy my own groceries. I had castmates. Shout out to Deoye, love you, and why? Yeah, 2 stunning performers who took me to fucking Trader Joe's and bought me for the first 3 weeks because I didn't have any money, and I was like, I have to pay rent back in Chicago. How am I supposed to go 3.5 weeks without a paycheck?
You're like starving.
I mean, they wouldn't let me starve.
But I know they wouldn't let you. But you could have.
I was fucked, and then they were going to. We were going to San Diego afterwards, and the lead actor, who's older, super skilled dude, like, who I learned so much from, Chris Donahue, like, truly stunning person, and many others in that cast, and Leonardo da Vinci. He and Louise Lamson specifically, like, really, you know, I learned a lot from them. And we were outside having a cigarette one day, because he was a heavy smoker, and we knew that he was going to be gone for the final week of performances in San Diego. And I was currently covering him, which was a tall task because it's like the main, everyone is Leonardo in the show, but there's like, he's like the main arc of Leonardo.
Okay.
Every word you hear from the show comes directly from his notebooks.
Really?
So that's just like kind of random thoughts. That's what I mean. It's not like, hey,
was there men and women playing
yeah,
parts?
yeah, we had all kinds of stuff. Like, and the women would do like these really amazing, like physical. Casey Foster is just like a virtuoso of human movement. And so the fall happens in DC, and he asked me like, are you gonna go on for me in San Diego? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, they're probably gonna hire somebody to do it. He was like, it needs to be somebody that's been with the show. And I took that as like, whoa, as like him like metaphorically passing me the torch. So I was like hype about it, and then I didn't end up doing it because they hired someone else, and they still had me cover it.
Okay, so you covered it so you did play it, or?
Well, this other guy covered. No, I never ended up going on.
You still covered it.
I still had to like. Well, actually no, that's not true. I lied. I didn't have to cover it in San Diego. I went back to my normal tracks, 2 tracks. But in between DC and San Diego, she was doing this show called The Steadfast Tin Soldier, which is a fairy tale, a winter fairy tale, about this soldier, like a toy soldier on Christmas, who gets swept up on this adventure and goes down the rain sewer all the way to the water and gets eaten by the whale, and then they catch the fish, and the fish ends up back on the table at the end of the adventure. And she did it silent. So it was like, there was like a quartet and Mary also directed this show. Okay. So I emailed her and I was like, hey, I know you need covers, like I'd love to audition for this. So I auditioned for it. She wanted to have me as the Tin Soldier cover, but I ended up covering this other role. So I got to work with her on the second show, in between 2 legs of Da Vinci, thinking like, okay, yeah, like I'm under her wing, like this is sick.
And you're still not equity though?
I'm still not equity.
Okay.
And then in San Diego, they offered me an equity contract. Good for you. And I was like, yes, I'm taking it.
Well deserved.
Finally.
I mean,
like,
geez.
fuck.
Yeah.
And everyone who said like in the Heights, like I was taking money, they paid me $400 for 3 months of work, just so you know. Like that was the payment for In the Heights. Once we extended, it was $100 a week. Then when we extended a second time, it was $150 a week, and we extended a third time for the last 3 weeks, it was $300 a week. Before that, for the first 3 months of work, it was $400 to, oh my fucking goodness gracious. I don't know if it was me. I think the fact that they knew as a business move that Hamilton being in Chicago, it was a good time to market In the Heights because it was an affordable way to see Lin-Manuel Miranda's work.
Yeah.
So here we are, and we sell out 6 months, sold out longer than any of their shows had ever done in history. The Cubs were winning the World Series like less than a half mile away. We could hear it inside during the show. Like when it was a crazy time.
So you can actually hear.
We could hear the screams of the Cubs.
Oh, the Cubs games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
No. Hamilton was further downtown. Sorry,
No, you're cool.
I ramble when I talk about this because it's.
There's a lot that.
I don't talk about it often. It's tough.
mean,
It's tough because, like, I had people calling me out, like, I'm like, and genuinely, I really did have the best intentions. Like, maybe I was too naive. Maybe I was like, I had something to prove. I had a chip on my shoulder. I thought, no, I can do this. I'm gonna win everybody over.
You're
Guess
like
what,
23 years
motherfucker?
old.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna boycott it, and they're not even gonna come. You're not even gonna have a chance to win them over.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Who are you proving this to? Yourself? Fine. It better be worth it. And in a way, it was. I would go back and.
Did you ever think to yourself, like, why am I this guy right now? Like, was that, like, did that cross your mind, or?
I think it was the first time I thought, like, wow, maybe I really don't want to be famous.
Yeah.
I thought of, and this leads me to the Alchemist stuff and the Artist's Way stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I thought, bro, I wanted.
Was that your biggest reason of doing theater, though? I don't think so, because you're
I
too
thought
hard
it
of a
was.
worker.
No. I loved it. Like I said, the main reason I did it was because it was kind of like I was born to do it. Like, I just didn't find it until later on. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with stories and in touch with, like, people, like, always watching people and curious about people. And then B, with the interactions of humankind and, like, how we treat each other, why we treat each other, what we treat each other. And so, like, when I realized I had a knack for it, I think it was a relief because I was good at it and I didn't have to try, like, that hard. Like, I was like, like, I'm just doing the normal amount of work I think I need to do, and people are, like, blowing smoke up my ass or just, like, loving it.
Yeah.
And then
because you naturally had a presence.
So it was just kind of like, oh, you're ADHD, you're like outgoing, you can talk to people, you're personable, you should like, all the things that people tell people who are personable or who are funny. You
Here's
should be a
some
comedian.
lines, put it on stage.
Yeah, right. So that's why I got into it. But then I think I really followed up because when I got into DePaul, I did have the delusions of grandeur. Like, oh, like you could be famous. Like you could make a ton of money.
Because you were right there. Like you kind of felt it. Yeah.
And I've had auditions, closed calls. I got called in for the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child national tour last year to play old, like current Harry, like the dad version. So I'm 30. I was 30. I was 30 at the time. He's like 37 to 40. I do, and I still have my wand that you guys got me, the Sirius Black wand from Universal. Or
it was from Universal.
It was from Universal.
In
Florida, yes. Downtown Universal in Orlando, Florida. Maybe that would bring more business here. Open up a little Disneyland. Bring Cascade Park back up. That's what we need to do. No, so
people want that, believe me.
Well, we're I forget where we were saying.
You got the call back for Cursed Child.
Oh yeah. So no, I wasn't a callback. It was just I got called in for it, and I got glasses. I got the hairy glasses, and I drew a scar, and I put a suit on, and I fucking watched all, like I really because let's face it, dude, like it's Harry fucking Potter. Like you want someone who's gonna remind you of Daniel Radcliffe. So like I watched all eight movies back to back twice in a row, like over the weekend when I was when I was reading the play and I was listening to it so I could try to do his my version of his accent, of his dialect. So it's like, oh yeah, that's Harry as an older guy. This would have been 16 months at $4,000 a week with $1,000 or sorry, $3,000 a week, like $3,500 a week with $1,000 per diem every week.
Oh my gosh,
that's life-changing money.
Heck yeah.
So I'm thinking like,
that's real.
I could buy a house with this. I could fucking start a life with this. This could build my resume. I could go to Broadway after
invest
this, like
in something, you know.
And I didn't get it, of course, which is fine. Like I'm still a little young for the role, but like it would have been to be in the ensemble and to understudy Harry. And I've had a couple auditions like that are close calls, like roles on TV or like this or that or like.
Yeah.
So I think I did have the delusions of grandeur. Like, oh, what a coincidence that the thing that I'm best at has a lucky fast track to fame and money.
Right.
And then In the Heights happened, and I realized, like, I definitely don't want attention. That's not it. Because I used to go out into the lobby after the shows.
Yeah.
And be like, praise me.
Yeah, right.
Let's take pictures. Let me sign your program. And I used to love people. Like, I used to, like, slowly walk to my car so that someone might, like, pass me and be like, hey, you were just in that show.
Yeah.
And then I started working, and then like years later, like after a bunch of understudying and not getting work and like bad reputation and all this stuff, like I worked with Chris Donahue from Leonardo da Vinci, the older dude who I told you about, the main actor.
Okay.
This dude is one of the best actors I've ever seen. Like, and has stage fright, and he's terrified, and he won't go to a single cast party. You won't catch him outside, and he sneaks out the back door after every performance. And it hit me like, there's more to this.
Yes.
Like,
that's awesome.
Standing up on stage at that last moment when they applaud and you bow should be the last time you seek validation from anything. And then I went on a whole new journey of like, because some nights I felt like sneaking out the back door, and some nights I felt like being personable and talking to people about the show because I love it and I'm obsessed with it and I want to hear what you thought and I want to hear like, what did you think and did this work? And we have all experienced that. Like wanting to hear like, what'd you think? Like, did you catch that thing that we stuck in there because we're theater kids and we like
we want to know like how you felt about on my high note that I hit for 5 seconds. Like, what do you know? Like,
I know you got that the tenor vibe.
Yeah, so
and then I realized like why I was like asking myself like why do you even care what other people think? Because and then it took me back to this memory I had. It was my senior year at DePaul and I had my musical theater teacher Mark, phenomenal, brilliant piano player, amazing old school. You would love him. You would love Mark.
From
at DePaul. We had one musical theater class at the end of it all for like the whole year basically. And I walked in and the first thing he said to me, we like warmed up like like there's a couple scales or whatever, and he looked me dead in my eye and he was like, you get away with a lot of bullshit, don't you? And I was like, me? What do you mean?
A lot of bullshit.
Like, and he was like, you get away with a lot of bullshit. And I was like, he was like, let me ask you something. When you bullshit a performance and someone comes up to you afterwards and tells you what a good job you did, do you lose respect for that person? And I was like, oh my God, yes, I do. Because I know deep down, I'm like, you didn't see me on my best night. Like, what do you know? You know what I mean? I'm like, you don't know where my bar is.
Yeah.
You're just coming in on one night. I've been working on this shit for years. Thousands of hours. If it was like a video game on Steam and you could see my hours played,
Yeah,
it's
up there.
thousands of hours.
Yeah.
1,000 hours just on one
So when did he
roll.
say this to you?
This was my senior year of college, and then I started really like.
Oh, okay. So you were still in school.
Battling this journey of like ego and skill and like deserving and you know, what does the word earn really mean? And what does, like, you know, I earned this or I deserve this, like all these thoughts and shit. And so like I go through a couple really hard breakups, and I all these things are like swirling in my head, and my life is a fucking mess. I'm sleeping on my brother's couch because shit went south with my girlfriend, and like we moved out together, but I was at a very low point, smoking a ton of cigarettes, chain smoking cigarettes, until one day I was like, this is fucking gross. Like, what am I doing?
Like, yeah.
12 years of smoking from Bye Bye Birdie all the way to Leonardo da Vinci in San Diego.
It started with Bye Bye Birdie.
And I'm like sitting there like, what am I doing? Like, I'm saying I want to sing. I'm saying I still have hopes of like doing musical theater, and I'm sitting here killing myself. I'm sitting here smoking and wallowing and like the Louis C.K. just like just
depression
depressed and just battling a little bit of depression,
sure.
maybe just straight up depression. And so
and it's something I feel like, you know, you moved to Chicago, like it was gonna happen at some point.
I guess that's part of like goes under the header of like things I didn't know I was signing up for, which were a lot.
Yeah.
And I went from a naive Western Pennsylvania kid to a slightly sharper city kid, like through my 20s. And like I learned a little more about how to handle myself and a little bit more. But what I didn't learn how to do was how to advocate for myself, or like I was always like the yes man, like I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You hired me, I'll do whatever you want.
And they love that, but you're gonna get
and it's like
hammered.
What if it's like, and then I started being like, no. And then so this last show I was in, I'd be like, I don't think that's right here, actually. Like, okay, it was Romeo and Juliet. I played Paris.
Okay.
Which is another rabbit hole that we could go down. Paris is the
and this
one,
is in where did you
at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater.
Okay.
And it was Paris is the one that Juliet's parents want her to marry, the societally correct choice. You know, two great families uniting, all that thing. Romeo and Paris don't even know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Romeo might know that there's an arranged marriage, but Paris does not. He only knows the name. Like, he doesn't know that they're in love. They don't know. No one knows anything.
Right.
So at the end, Paris comes in to pay respects because he thinks Juliet is dead, but really she's gonna wake up later, and her and Romeo are gonna run off and live happily ever after. And as Paris is like laying the flowers down, he hears footsteps, and he's like, "What the fuck? Like now? Like it's like this is a weird time. Like I was just trying to get some alone time, and like, you know, pay condolences to my wife."
Right.
And Romeo comes in, and they're like, "Yeah, I think like you know, like you pull your swords out and you like duel." And I was like, I stopped them right fucking there. First day we rehearsed it, and I was like, I disagree. This is not a duel.
Yeah.
This is. Wait, what the fuck are you doing here? Wait, you're a wanted criminal. Wait, oh shit, like, oh, I have to be the one to take this dude in? Stop right there. And Romeo, out of passion, is like, get out of my face, bro. Like, seriously, you picked the wrong day.
Yeah.
And Paris is like, no, we're gonna take, I'm like, I don't want to kill him in there. I want to take him before the prince. I'm doing the societally, politically correct thing here as an aristocrat. And Romeo is a murderous madman.
And they just wanted to see random action.
And they wanted like a duel, and I'm like, why though? Why a duel?
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with honor. This is pure passion. Tybalt and Mercutio, that's a duel. I send a letter to your house. Everybody knows we're secretly meeting, which is funny. Everybody knows we're secretly meeting behind the clock tower at whatever time. Whoever draws blood first or whoever touches first wins. You get bragging rights until the next time. Nobody was supposed to kill each other.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of bullshit. Like a lot of people who don't want to tell stories, who just want their name and they want the award, and they like being actors better than they like acting. They like being directors better than they like the act of directing. They like the title and the show and the community of it all, but they don't like the blood and the sweat and the tears. And everyone who's getting a fucking fat paycheck from Steppenwolf and Second City and any other hardworking Chicago theater company that started in church basements in the fucking 80s, doing 2 shows a week in rep and coming in on Monday, the only theater dark day, and doing a 3rd show. Why? Because they were getting equity paychecks and health insurance? No, because they fucking loved it. Because they knew that the world needed it.
Yeah.
Anyone who gets a paycheck from them now for $1,200 a week and isn't honoring the legacy that brought them there is a complete and utter travesty to the art, to the entire community of actors, and to every actor who's out there struggling. Because you got hired by a fucking theater that was homegrown, home roots, that got bought by a private equity firm. You know what a private equity firm's main goal is?
What?
To make money.
Yeah.
Not to create art. A private equity firm is going to come into an artistic business and turn it into a money-making scheme. Here's $600 classes. Here's $800 tickets. Even the lowest of the low tickets are still over $100.
And the craft, anybody that cares about the craft, it's out the window because it's all about.
You see it. We'll do Shakespeare in the Park for free, bro. I don't give a fuck. Bring your family, bring your grandma, bring your aunt, bring your dog, bring everyone, because this is for everyone. And you have a theater half filled up with $85 tickets. Wouldn't you rather just sell $25 tickets for a full house?
Yeah.
You're not making your money back on ticket sales anyway. You make your money on donors and subscribers and rich friends who send you millions of dollars a year to keep your business afloat, because there's no theater that makes all of their money off of ticket sales. Maybe the Eugene O'Neill, because Book of Mormon is sold out every fucking night and a beer costs $15 there.
Yeah.
But every other theater, even the equity ones, they're not they survive on donor money, a subscriber base that's dying off.
Yeah.
The future of theater looks bleak. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know where. I've been trying to find how I fit into it for years, and I've had little bits of.
So you think theater's just it's getting worse, right? As far as even Broadway, like they hire the celebrity.
Commercial theater is, but I know tons of dozens, hundreds, thousands of hardworking backdoor artists that you will never hear of.
That's what I'm saying. Like some of the best performers are never getting the opportunities.
Well, all the media you see is controlled by the same 10 guys.
Yeah.
That own all of the everything. I mean, unless you're like a YouTube or like TikTok kind of like fan, like
right.
Finding like the up and comers and stuff like that, which I think is great. I think is fantastic. It gives people but at its core, their main way of making money is by ad revenue. So like the second you see your favorite influencer like mixing a comedy video in with like a Cheerios ad, you're like, man.
Oh yeah,
you just got a fat check from Cheerios.
I've been watching.
Now I gotta fucking watch.
I've been watching like this guy that I don't know. He does fun baseball things, like activities and stuff. Like
talking about Nicky Cass.
No, his name's the King of JUCO.
I don't know.
He was a pro ball player. Never made the majors, but he has his own show. But like, I mean, no, he's great. But like, then they're like, oh, by the way, like.
G Fuel.
We're hungry. Let's go eat this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they need that though to keep going.
I hear you.
But at the same time, it does throw you off though a little bit. You're like,
I'm like, this is an ad, isn't it? Like, it's like that Futurama episode where there are ads in your dreams because they found a way to like broadcast the wavelength like into your brain. So like Fry's in his dream and he sees like the ad, and then he goes to the store to buy the underwear he sees in his dreams. Like that's how bad it's getting. It's
for sure.
Almost crept in. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I could ramble about this shit all day because I'm passionate about it, but I'm also like so disappointed by how I was kind of like shoved out of it. Because you
felt like the effort.
You really want to know the main reason I went into theater? Because for every sports team I was ever on that I sat the bench, this was the first time I got to participate. Like
I
being
get
in
it.
Theater.
Oh, I get it.
It was the first time
I quit sports to do theater because you
felt useful. Because you feel like, oh shit, like I'm like a useful.
I know.
I can bring something to the table. I'm valued here.
Right.
And we as human beings, whether it's in a interpersonal relationship with your wife or with your kids or with your friends or with anyone, you want to feel useful. You want to feel like you provide a service to someone in your family, in your workplace. And so I felt like I was providing something. Like I could provide for you what you need for this. Why don't you want to use me back?
Yeah.
And that's such a desperate thing to come out of your mouth. Listen to the words I just fucking said.
It's truthful.
Isn't that so brutal to be that desperate for a gig? To be that desperate for approval? And so the validation approval meter, so like all this shit is happening in my life. I'm going through all these breakups. I'm like, not all these breakups, but like one really, really, really brutal one, I'm like not booking much, or I am booking.
Are these actors too, the women you've been dating? Or?
Two actors and one in the industry, but not an actor.
Because ever since I got into acting, I think I've only dated actors.
It's hard not to.
I know, because you haven't.
I mean, I did Spring Awakening.
Well, now I'm married to one for 6 years.
In 2022, and I part of the reason I was having problems at home with my partner, and then like I was at this place at work where like I felt like nothing else could. I couldn't talk to anyone else but my coworker, and then that turned a little too comfortable, a little too close. We didn't end up doing anything, but there was definitely like the conversations, the emotional connection. It was all there, and we also had to simulate sex on stage, which was a very hard thing to do. And
you had to be comfortable to make it look
with
real.
As much care as possible, but then like it was like it's so hard. It's so like hard to talk about this. I don't talk about this anyway. This is crazy. And I was like, it's really
here you are.
Like, who gives a fuck? Like, why? It's like, why hide? Like, I fell completely in love with this girl, and like I to this day, like I think about her. I love her. Like I wish I could change the way things were, and then like the way it ruined my life. But also at the same time, it was like I was selfish. I fell. My schedule was waking up at 5, going to work at Starbucks till noon, coming home for a 30-minute nap, going to the theater from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., coming back, going to sleep at midnight, waking up at 5 a.m., repeat for 2 months. I lost sleep. I wasn't myself. I was lost. We were having problems at home. I was depressed. I met this person who I felt like was like in a weird way, like my soul. Like I was like, I've known you for 1,000 years. This is so weird. But it kind of like was, like the world like around us, like it could never be. And so I get it, dude. Like when you're with someone and you're sharing those emotions regularly on stage, and then you have to go home and not think about it. It's like I just feigned killing myself over this person, and we're kissing, we're simulating sex, we're doing all these things, and my body is telling me I like you, I want this connection, and my brain is telling me stop, and then I'm waking up from dreams where we're like napping under a tree together, or we're like, it wasn't insidious, it was just like I'm falling for this person
were you but why were you like, you seemed like you were a little bit like scared too, like
because I was in a fucking relationship.
Oh, you were already in a I'm sorry
girlfriend.
You were with
my
your
bad.
girlfriend.
I sort of danced around that, didn't I? I was in a relationship with my girlfriend, and it was hard to keep my like I would go home and be like, yo, like I need a little extra care here, like I'm not gonna be sleeping much, I'm gonna be exhausted, I'm just gonna need some like love and care. And it was constantly like fear and doubt, chipping away until it was like, you're like, I fell apart. Instead of standing up for myself and saying, you know what, this isn't working for me, I want to break up, I let it go on, and I like leaked my love into another area, which was not fair, or to anyone,
right,
including myself or her, most especially her.
But it was just coming on naturally.
It was just this sort of like,
and you're with them
all the time, constantly, and all I ever wanted to do, and still at a lot of times.
And you're still young. You're not married. I mean, it wasn't like.
Yeah, it was. Well, no, like.
I mean, you're living with
a girl.
Feel
better about it. I mean, but I definitely, I hated myself for doing it, right? For letting the connection go far enough to the point where it was enough to make my current partner feel like I was cheating on them, which emotionally I was. I did fall in love with that person. Not unfortunately. Like I don't regret any of the experiences in my life. Like it's a chance to become that man I was talking about earlier, like the best version of the man that I can become, which, you know, you fight every day. Like there are different decisions like every day. Like that's what I learned, like growing up Catholics. Like that's what they meant by the devil is tempting. You think as a kid, temptation's bad, and then you grow up and you're like, oh, that's temptation.
Oh yeah, well, it's too metaphorical when you're in school. Like they don't really like throw it in they don't give you examples, and then you live those
and then
examples.
God will test you, and you're like, and I'm not even like super duper crazy religious. I'm just saying like, so all this stuff happened, broke up, sleeping on the couch, bad time in my life, and I went to my friend's wedding, and they had this excerpt from The Alchemist read at their wedding, and everyone's like, oh, you read The Alchemist, read it. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll fucking read it. So I picked it up and I read it, and it changed my life, dude. Like it's all about like journey and purpose and like this and that, and it kind of gave me guidance of like, you know, this. You know, I want you to read it. And I want to come back. I want to come back and talk more because we have more. You know.
Yeah.
We
have plenty to talk
We'll
about.
keep going with this.
I know.
I'd love
we could talk for
hours, dude, days, all night. We stayed up all night sometimes.
I know. Like so, me and you used to just sit and talk for hours.
We'd sit outside,
no problem.
Dude. go through a whole 3/4 of a pack of cigarettes in one night at your guy's house in your driveway. But
I mean, I remember one time I had to go to like my cousin's house because there was like something crazy happening.
I just stayed at your
I was
house.
like, Jack, you be okay? Like, you were still right there. We were
I'll
watching
hang out.
Halloween or something, Mike Myers, and I
'Cause
came
your
back
mom,
and you were
like,
there.
That's the way our families are. It's like if you're your friend's kid, like you're aunt and uncle basically. Like, but I read The Alchemist and then I read The Artist's Way, and then so this is the full circle thing. Like I wrote after 120 pages, single space of writing, journaling, and like just like exploring my brain and my memories and like trying to write shit down and find truth somewhere. I wrote this thing and I was like, and I kind of like shook my head and I was like, because when you're like really writing, like free writing, it just thought, and it like snapped me out of it. And I looked down and I was like, did I really just fucking write that, dude? Like, what is this? And it was like, and I said something over long. I could go find the page. I have them somewhere. It's like, all this time, like I thought I wanted fame. I thought I wanted money, but really, what I've been after this whole time on this whole journey, the last 10, 13 years, was respect. And it hit me so fucking hard, dude. And it like, the realization like still does, like, because that's why I wanted to go out in the lobby for those extra hugs. That's why I wanted people to want me to sign their program, because I wanted them to remember me, to have an impact.
Right.
And I wrote that and I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, why did it take this long for you to realize that? Like, and then I realized from there that it wasn't something that I could get from an audience member or from a teacher or from a director or from Chris fucking Jones at the Chicago Tribune and whatever review you're gonna write, or for Heady
how you're
White's,
feeling that day,
any major paper, anybody. The only person who knows where my bar is me. And whether I'll have a terrible performance and have people come up to me and be like, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen you do. And then I'll have a great performance and I'll be like, yeah, it was alright.
I know.
So nobody knows. So the only person who knows.
Believe me, I've performed in some lower IQ areas where I'm over here belting my head off.
And everyone's like, I don't care.
And they're like, and some of them are like, oh wow, like why aren't you on Broadway? And I'm like, well, like why would I be on Broadway? I'm a teacher. Why would I put I don't want to subject myself to that anymore. I really don't.
Well, I mean, it's a lot. It is. It's terrifying, and you can't have job security, and you have to wait tables or bartend because the school is not going to let you leave for 2 months to go do a play.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't get a sub whenever you want.
Right.
Right?
No. I couldn't. Yeah. I mean.
For me, like that was
They're
like,
not gonna.
I took a couple gigs where I was like, I can't work this job. Like I have to go back to Starbucks and be a barista. So like Starbucks baristaing, shout out Starbucks. I know like there's some issues with the company, but like you get free counseling, free mental health.
I think everybody loves.
with them.
Most people love Starbucks.
Shout out Starbucks, sponsor us, sponsor this. Thank you.
It's a Starbucks sponsor.
Howard
cool.
Howard Schultz. He's not the CEO anymore, but he's still a badass. Howard Schultz, you're a badass. Shout out.
I don't even know who that is.
He was like he was the dude who like brought them back. He was like CEO for a while. But they offered free healthcare, mental counseling.
Okay, that's
and
nice.
so I took that up and I just started seeing this
Did that
counselor
help?
on Zoom a lot because I hated myself. I hated myself for the shame, for the pain that I caused, for the shame, and like it was just I was just beating myself into the ground. And in therapy, my therapist was like, "Well, we can't do anything. Forgiving yourself is the first step because we can't get anything done until you do that." But that took me months. I mean, maybe even like a year. Like it took me a long time to forgive myself.
Oh, yeah. I mean.
For breaking someone's heart, for not being honest with my own feelings, or maybe wanting to break up sooner, or like having a backbone enough to say like, hey, this isn't the direction that I want to go.
It was most of that due to the relationships.
Mostly
your
that,
companion.
and also like, just not making enough money to make rent, and having some financial problems, and having like Starbucks was great, but like I wasn't making.
Yeah, you're like what am you?
Enough,
you get to a point where you're like I need some stability.
Yeah, it was a toughie, and through like therapy, through The Artist's Way, through reading The Alchemist, I realized like, oh man, I'm far from where I need to be as a man and as a person and as a human being, and from myself. I didn't feel like myself.
But you know how many people, and it's like just the fact that you recognize that. You know how many people never recognize that.
I don't know. I don't feel like I know much of anything anymore.
Yeah, who knows? All right.
I don't know, dude. Like the happiest people I meet are the people I'm like, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to be happy.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
And I think part of it, like, when I wrote that down and I was like, oh man, like, I mean, money would be nice.
Yeah.
It's
it
just not the main
helps.
reason I do it.
Right. Same. I mean,
fame
honestly.
is not nice. Fame is, I mean, even the teeny tiny fingernail of that I experienced.
Well, that's why I
within
tell
the
people
heights.
I love performing at the Newcastle Playhouse because I like providing something to people that they never
Right.
that they make. Like I think that I can give some of the best efforts to characters
Yes.
in this area,
Yes.
and that they get to see that.
And and like I was saying earlier, like I have.
and that's why I mean you do it for similar reasons.
Yeah, maybe. I think there a lot of actors would be like super magnanimous about it. Be like, "Oh, I serve a service." Like, shut up.
I don't.
Dude. Like,
did
we're
I
playing-
sound like that? I'm
No,
sorry.
not at all, not at all. I just mean like, I don't want to sound pretentious. I just want to like, I do it because I love it, because I'm good at it, because it's fun.
Yeah.
I also do it because one day I always sort of had like daydreams of maybe like starting the Western Pennsylvania Shakespeare Theater, the first one, or like the Pittsburgh Shakespeare Theater, or like, you know, do some homegrown production stuff here, and like and maybe sharing it with, like, if we had access as kids, like how would that have been different? Not that it matters, I don't want, you know, but just can we give kids something other than a baseball glove and basketball shoes, and like can we just maybe produce music and art and dance and like the things that we've been doing for millennia as a human race, and like lean in. And sports too are that ancient. I think we should still do sports.
And there always will be. Around here, there will always be sports.
Some school district in the local area spent $3 million on a sports facility that should be at a D1 college, and now they're in debt and they're trying to buy out their teachers to pay for it.
Yeah.
What kind of ass backwards? Am I gonna get in trouble? For
No,
saying, like what kind of
you'd be
ass
surprised.
backwards shit is that? Like, so
It's
I
not.
think it's great, and that's part of being home. And you know, I did my last show. I was in between jobs. Like I came home for Easter. My car broke down. I was like, well, I'll just stay for my birthday. And then I stayed for 6 weeks. Then I was like, what am I gonna do? And my brother and I needed to break our lease at our apartment, and I had another apartment I was going to see, a job lined up, and then I was just like, I have to go home. Like I can't. I saw this video the other day. This dude said about eagles. I've always been fascinated by eagles, but I never knew this. Harpy eagle's my favorite animal. They're fantastic. Google them. They're fucking sick. Harpy eagle. So like eagles in general, they can live about 70 years, but around the 40-year mark,
All types of eagles on average.
eagles like bald eagles, like harpy eagles, South American eagles, like all kind of eagles, they can live to about 70 years old.
It's almost as much as a human. Almost.
Yeah, basically, but around 40, they go through this process where their beak gets dull, their talons get weak, and so they have two options. They can die like that, or they can seclude themselves at the top of the mountains, smash their beak on a rock, it grows back, pluck each talon out, they grow back, and then they can live another 30 years with those fresh things. And I saw that yesterday, and I was like, holy shit, dude, like, am I on the top of the mountain? Am I in my eagle phase right now? Like, and I think I might be, and I deep down, I think I knew I couldn't do it there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have, my family, I come from a big family. My mom's the oldest of 6.
Yeah.
My dad has a brother. I have tons of
Both
cousins.
sides are big Italian families.
Two, dozen cousins, and 45 of us on Christmas Eve. Big support system.
Yeah.
I didn't have a support. All my closest friends from DePaul, New York, Portland, Denver, California, like Atlanta, everyone's scattered now. Like all my close friends.
Yeah,
and like
they're all moving.
I have some great family in Chicago. Some friends who I would go the distance for, and vice versa. For
That's
me,
great.
I know they would.
Yeah.
But it was a really small group, and all from different sort of aspects of my life. And I think I needed. And then like I was talking to my mom a lot. My grandparents, her parents aren't doing too hot. Just like 95 and 87. One has dementia, and
Yeah, I mean,
they're
it's
too
life,
stubborn to leave their
yeah.
house. So I was like, well, why don't I'm the only grandkid who's either not in school or doesn't have like a wife and kids and a career.
Yeah.
So the tavern on the square was opening up in New Wilmington,
Yes.
and I saw it in Chicago, and I was like, well, I'm just applying to random restaurants. I'm like, I don't really want to work at Mary's. No shade, I love Mary's.
Yeah,
Like,
Mary's is amazing.
I eat Mary's
yeah.
twice a week. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
like,
I just had it like a
I
week
didn't
ago. It's
know-
delicious. Oh my gosh.
I didn't know like what I wanted to do, or like if I wanted to like go back to waiting tables or being a barista, or like I knew I had to do something while I moved in with my grandparents to help take care of them. And so I got home, like all my shit is still scattered. Like this is still, I'm still adjusting. Like it's
Yeah.
still like a tough
Because you've been gone for
13 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the LA thing, which we didn't even get into, but like well, we'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't even know you were in LA. I don't think.
2019, for 6 months leading up to COVID, I was there.
Was that when you did the Crash Bandicoot?
No, that was in
character?
Chicago. That was a fun one though. That was one of the commercials. That was a win the win column. But they only paid me like $600, and after taxes it was like $430.
And you didn't get any like residuals or
No,
anything,
it was
nothing like that.
It was like a non-union, like they don't give a shit. And the only reason I booked that was because I wore these funky pants for the audition tape, and I asked the director, I was like, "Did I book it because of the pants?" And he was like, "No, it was because of your dance moves, and because of the pants." And I was like, "I knew it, dude. I knew it, man. I hate this. I hate this life. Like, I just want to tell a good story. I just want to."
But you at least you I mean you experienced it. I mean you're experiencing it. You got to see the true colors of show business.
Yeah, I mean LA was crazy, smoke and mirrors, and it made me. You know what it really made me realize was how much I love live theater. I was like, dude, like yeah, okay. If you get lucky and you get like a real artistic director in Hollywood, then you like have a great experience, great. But like right now, dude, I'd be curious to see how many scripts they've typed into fucking AI, because
we were just talking
all
about
the laws
that.
and shit. It's like, yeah, but how many of them are just
it's so
honoring
easy.
that or like and I
It
feel
looks like, I mean most
I'll be
movies
watching
nowadays
TV
look
and
like
I'll be
AI.
I'll be watching TV and I'll watch it and I'll be like, oh my god, dude. Like,
The newer movies, yeah.
oh my god, like you used to, when we were kids, you could go to the movie. It could be a comedy, a horror, a mystery. It was gonna be a good movie.
Yeah, you
Like,
leave going, oh wow, like you felt something.
Karate Kid has a fucking Oscar award, and it's like now.
Yeah, it's a kids movie.
But then
yeah.
what about today's Karate Kid? Just some C- movie where they're doing kung fu,
Yeah.
not actually. Let's not call it the Kung Fu Kid.
And it's Will Smith's son, like that got
Industry
the part.
plans, all this other
Yeah.
stuff. It's like, but movies like My Cousin Vinny, and I'm just naming like Ralph Macchio movies. I don't know why I'm only
That's a great
naming
movie.
Ralph
My Cousin
Macchio
Vinny is a
movies.
great
Like,
movie.
They
and-
both have Oscars, and My Cousin Vinny's just some silly comedy about like a New York Italian guy lost in fucking
South.
Alabama, and Marissa Tomei, all this stuff. So it's
Marissa
like,
Tomei and
even things like Jurassic Park, or
Eden
like
Grits.
go back to the 2000s with the Daniel Day-Lewis movies, like There Will Be Blood, Gangs of New York. Like there was just we had
early 2000s
we
was
had
really
some
good.
sick fucking movies.
Even up until about 6 years ago,
yeah,
5
sure, of
years
course.
ago.
And there are still. I'm not saying I've just lost interest because
I feel the same way though. There's a lot of movies that I don't watch. I don't know. How, they're like, did you see that? I'm like, no. It's
right.
Is it
I
original
didn't-
feeling? I mean,
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
everyone,
like, I wish I was caught up.
a couple like there's a few like Banshees of Inisherin, or I can't pronounce it that.
Of Inishmore.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that Martin McDonough? Did he write
Yes,
that?
yeah, I mean, he's
my buddy
phenomenal.
in New York has been in a couple plays.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Owen Campbell, sick. He's on.
Wait, your
the
friend,
kid, my friend,
Owen
yeah.
Campbell.
He's been on Boardwalk Empire and a couple other things, and he did this play, and then Martin McDonough cast him for the last one that they did on Broadway.
And that's like,
so cool.
so he's talented, right? I'm sure very talented, but also like there's a little bit of timing and luck involved in that too, right?
Yeah, his parents also have like an Emmy on the mantle. No, I'm just kidding. They do, but it's because his dad wrote a
It helps.
documentary.
Everything helps.
Well, I think like the thing I realized about meeting New York kids was like, oh shit, like you guys are used to this. Like you guys know how to produce. You guys have rented a space, produced an entire show, and marketed it by the time you even got to college. Like,
Right.
They just know, they have friends, and parents have friends, and yeah, like having an interconnect. And that's the thing. Like anyone here who's interested in that, you don't have any resources. You gotta hope you get into a program, try to wiggle your way into the industry.
Oh yeah.
And maybe one day like you'll get a break. Or like my agents literally said to me last year, like, you're playing the lottery.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to play the lottery. I want to fucking work hard and get recognized for that. So like the whole respect thing, after I wrote that down, led me on this journey of like learning how to self-validate and like self-acknowledge. And
I could use some of that. So
well,
I mean,
it's hard. I don't do it well every day, but like every day I think like, you know, it's like kind of how we were talking like in the parking lot a little bit. Like some things you don't like doing, but that you know that they're the right thing to do. Like I don't love making, like here's a simple example. I don't love making my bed every morning, but I do feel really good when I come in my room and it's
you can
clean.
it's everything's
It's just nice. It's like,
right.
It took 30 seconds. Like just
do it.
my boss.
Do you think like ADHD, like I mean, I have it too. Like I think
our
we
whole
both have it.
generation. Our
Yeah,
whole yeah.
it makes things really complicated sometimes. I don't know why. Like those things that like your mom's on your case about. I'm like I don't know why it's so hard. It just feels really hard. I'm sorry. You know?
Yes, and I see it sometimes, and I feel it because it's like my Owen, that actor I just told you about. He's dyslexic. He can't read a script.
Wow.
But he will.
My head went to Bill Cosby because I know Bill Cosby.
Was he?
Like,
I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He talks about it on
Man, what a
the Cosby Show.
buzzkill, dude. I cannot watch.
I know you can't.
anything
Think about it. A lot of the people that got canceled.
No, the
over
only
years,
one
too.
that I can still is I'll still rock out to Michael Jackson all the time. I can't not.
Well, that's
I'm sorry.
never
It's like
been
a cult
proven.
of mine.
That's
well,
been like
hell, let's not go down that road.
Oh, we won't. No, let's not. But also, like, I don't know. Like, I saw the documentary.
Yeah, the documentary is pretty wild.
And I was like, oh wow. So like, I'm not gonna
bad,
discredit
I
them
keep
or
it-
anything like that. I'm just saying.
No,
like,
no, of course.
It's just like I don't know.
Well, it's just all in like our whole childhood being a lie. Like, look at the Nickelodeon shit.
Nickelodeon.
All this kids like we're like, oh my god, like these like Amanda Bynes, probably one of the most talented people that came from
Yes.
our generation.
Oh,
Just straight
fantastic.
up, like ahead of her time. And what do? They Judy Garland her ass. Like they fucking pump her full of drugs,
Mm-hmm.
keep her like under their thumb, like all the sexual harassment too, and like the assault shit with Drake Bell. That was crazy. And here I was as a kid, being like, I want their life. Like I want
Yeah.
to be in California. I want to be in New York.
I know.
I want to be with the Rocket Power Kids, even though it was an animated show. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
oh
just
no,
that feeling.
Yeah.
I want to see it. I want to be there. I want to be like a part of that, like in the mix, like the Hey Arnold kids. Like how jealous were we of the Hey Arnold kids? Like because we didn't know to.
Oh, Hey Arnold's the best.
We
I
didn't
love Hey
know to
Arnold
take
so much.
pride in small town Newcastle because we didn't have a Subway. We didn't have bodegas. We didn't have like California or beach or surfing or like tacos. Like we had our own little weird sort of amalgamation of like Roman Catholic, Italian, white and black meshed into a small city that used to be thriving that's now hurting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always like yearned for that other lifestyle. But then I sort of lived it and I was like, oh man, oh geez.
The grass isn't always
I miss
greener.
seeing stars.
Yeah.
And that's the point of The Alchemist. The Alchemist, the main theme of The Alchemist is about the grass being greener, but you have to go to the other side of the mountain to see it for yourself. Otherwise, you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Or you can decide not to go. But the thing I took away from the book was whatever decision you make, you have to make peace with it. Because if you decide to not continue the journey, but then you'll always wonder about the journey if you never made peace with it. But then if like, say like you met the girl and you wanted to settle down and get married and like open up a shop or something, like it's the thing in The Alchemist. But he leaves her for a while because he's like, I gotta finish this journey first, and then I'll come back. And then he does like later come back and like stuff like that. But the thing I was like battling with at the fork in the road was like, is going home like killing my momentum, or is it exactly where I need to be when I need to be there? And I think it's the latter, because my grandparents did more for me, both sets of them, than I could ever begin to repay.
Yeah, I know.
Whether it was taking care of me when I was sick from school,
that-
picking me up, like little things to thousands of Sunday
They're not called the
dinners.
greatest generation for no reason.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Mates of 58.
So,
My grandma, yeah, she was another huge inspiration. My grandma and my uncle for, she had
Oh,
a
yeah,
Broadway
Greg and your
a Broadway line for every situation in life.
so she was theatrical.
She
musical,
was,
too.
oh yeah, dude, like she would sing, you can't always get what you want, or like don't rain on my parade, or
Yeah.
it's your party and you can cry if you want to.
My
or,
grandma
like,
had the same thing. Music teacher, very. I used to sing for her. I used to sing music of the night for her when I was like 17 or 18. Like just starts like she'd be like, it's a little nasal. She was saying, but then she'd go brag about me to everybody, and then she
because
also
she wanted you to be the best version of yourself you could be. Like
But
my
yeah.
grandma didn't really have like musical knowledge, but she loved theater and she loved Hugh Jackman. And
yeah. So
there was a lot of like
That works.
wanting to do her proud, and I didn't really have to. Like she was always proud. Like I didn't have to try that hard. But you also had a family who supported you artistically. So
yeah,
it was nice to have
absolutely. I
parents
mean, I had
like-
people that. I mean, my parents took me to see shows. Family opera on tour and things like that. I mean, so I was always involved in the arts. Watching, I used to watch Sound of Music on my way to Ocean City, like
Yes.
on repeat.
Yes, and
know?
Grease. I
And
grew up on Grease.
Oh, Grease, me too.
Like I've seen that.
I used to
movie
comb
so
my hair
many-
back,
yes,
slick it back, and
that's why
everything.
Bye Bye Birdie was so fun, because you got to kind of.
You got to play kind of a Grease character.
Dip into that a little
Yeah,
bit.
you kind of. Or no, you didn't do Grease because you were already gone.
No, I would have loved to. I saw it though, and I didn't see Grease. I saw Rent. Rent was
Yeah, Rent, yeah.
Rent was amazing.
It was big. I mean, because the rights had just came out, you know. So like that was like rent was still like really like rent was like fresh. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So what's? I was gonna say what's next for Jack then? What's?
I love my job at the tavern. The new.
So you're
owners-
working at the tavern.
Yeah, I'm at the tavern on the square. I'm serving tables.
So do you know Mackenzie?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Patsy Amabel's.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
and
made
Patsy,
that connection first day. I didn't. You're close. You and Patsy?
Really close with Patsy.
I was like.
We watch Monday Night Raw every Monday together. He lives on Fairmont.
I was like, dude, I told Mackenzie, I was like, you're Patsy Amabel. We went to Sunday school together for like the whole.
Oh, so you're in the same
I knew
grade.
Patsy,
Yeah, Mackenzie's great. She's an awesome person.
So yeah, I'm working there. I'm taking care of my grandparents. I'm spending time with there's a lot of babies in the family.
Yeah. You got AJ made
AJ
quite a
and
few.
Sammy
so
and Gab.
Gabby
all have
made
a kid
one.
now,
Yeah.
I
said make.
And I'm kind of just. They did make one.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of just like resetting. Like I don't know if I'm gonna rush. You know, there's a play I was maybe up for in Philadelphia, but I don't really trust it. I kind of am curious about like taking my journey here for a while and maybe like trying to set up some summer Shakespeare for next year when it's nice out. Like ask around venues, Cascade Park, shout out whoever's in charge.
Cascade Park, Pearson Park.
Pearson.
I mean, you got some options.
The Michael and Lindbergh, the couple who just bought the Stone Abbey Church, the church on East Washington Street up by the Sunoco. You know that church? What I'm talking about? It's right where the Y is, right where the V is.
Yeah, they just bought
that
it.
big old church that no one's been in.
Yeah.
This couple from California bought it.
Oh, no way.
They moved in. They turned it. They have this amazing collection of things. It's like being on the first class of the Titanic. And they're gonna do it as like a wedding venue kind of place.
Oh,
like
that's so cool.
People an experience away, and then there's a theater in the basement. And I was like, would you be interested in producing theater down here?
Yeah.
So it's like we can put our heads together.
Oh, for
and
sure.
There's
so many ideas. Even in this building right here, there's people that have ideas and opportunities.
Look, let's get together. Let's get some free live theater for next summer up and running in Newcastle. It doesn't take much. It just takes a group of people who really want it and one brave soul to lead the way. And I don't know who that's gonna be. I hope it's not me. But I would try to direct. You know, if it was the right scenario.
Well.
There's one project I'm working on that'll probably take a while. It's a one-man show, but essentially it's like an hour-long monologue, dude. It's brutally long.
Oh, okay.
For like as a task.
You're working
not
on it
as my friend wrote it and won the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh, no shit.
40th Edinburgh.
Good for
Fringe
him.
Festival. It's a fantastic. Man, someone's smoking.
Yeah,
I can smell it. No, I don't want a cigarette. I quit. I just smell when I smell it. I'm like.
I know. I know.
Yeah, so I want to get that to maybe start just because like you don't need a cast. Like I just have to be on my shit and like one light. You know, you don't need much for this one, but it takes
very low budget.
Exactly.
You can do it in the parking lot.
Right. It's just one of those things. It's like, how do we start? Like, where can we start? Like, where can we get, people who know how to, like, for example, like Ron, like someone who knows how to run a board, someone who knows how to call a show, stage manager, carpenters to build a set.
We have those resources.
You just gotta. I'd love to like settle in, get my shit in one place. Continue working at the tavern, and then maybe throughout the year, like talk to some people about getting some accessible, easy to see, high end art, fine art, right here in Newcastle. We could even have a Coney Island food truck. You got food? Do they have food trucks? Does Coney Island have food trucks? Bring them.
I'm sure
have a hot dog. See some shit.
I mean, they franchise, so I'm sure they have something.
Something, but I don't know. Whoever wants to participate, I would love to see. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights in the summertime and all of June, you can go to Pearson Park and see. Merchant of Venice. That probably wouldn't be the best one to start with. Romeo and Juliet.
Midsummer Night's Dreams are great.
All that. And then we'll hit them hard in the winter with a tragedy.
It was something, heavy that.
With some Macbeth or some Hamlet. Fucking Titus Andronicus, where he gets buried up to his neck, and then they set the ants, and the ants eat his head from the neck. That's how that ends.
Oh, really?
You know that episode of South Park where Cartman bakes the dude's parents into the pie and makes them eat it?
I haven't seen that one.
It's a play on Titus Andronicus.
Okay.
They like bake it's gross, but
I'll
anyway.
have to check that out.
Well, I don't know where to put a pin in it because I could sit here forever. What time is it even?
We'll be back. Was it? hours.
Dang.
So yeah.
You want to call? I don't know. I don't want to rush it. Like I'm down.
We can
to
have a
chill,
part
but
two
I-
at any
let's
time. But
have-
yes,
let's do it. Let's put a pin, right?
Yeah, I mean,
good.
welcome home.
Dude, thanks. It's so,
It was amazing
thanks
talking
for having
to you.
me.
You
Next
were
time,
fantastic.
We're gonna get a nice bottle of whiskey, because I always say to people, like, that's another bottle of whiskey. That's another bottle of whiskey. Like we'll have more shit, and then we can reminisce too. I want to share some stories.
We'll
on
have a
here,
part
like,
two. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Jack the Chesray, everyone.
Best tenor
Episode
in
3.
town.
Thank you. But thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Jack, again. Have a great night, everyone.
Fee, 5-4, nothing to a giant. Waited my turn, call it perfect time and trust the Most High. Got the stars aligning, I was tapped in. I've been strategizing, dreams coming true. I've been fantasizing while you criticize. Pay attention to the signs, civilized. Feel like a legend, they go idolized. Ayy, I'm a hero, wear my cape. Independent leader made a way. I'm the people's voice, your people rate. Stuck to my pace, the turtle win the race. The trophies on trophies views from the townscape. Change is great freight, then I had to skate. God told me time to go elevate. Chosen child, I'm the champ now, not a featherweight.